Die Sprachübertragung beginnt jetzt. Alle Teilnehmer befinden sich im Zuhörermodus.
So, good afternoon. Welcome to our new webinar series, Data Center Trends in Europe. This is the joint webinar from the Dutch Data Center Association and ECO, the Association of the Internet Industry. My name is Roland Broch from ECO, and together with my colleague Stein Grove from DDA, we are the hosts and moderators. So we would like to introduce you, our experts now. So let's start with Eric Barendsen. Eric is working as a senior policy officer for the Dutch Data Center Association, and Eric is convinced that data center residual heat can help to accelerate the energy transition. Next, we come to Arjan Westerhoff. Arjan is working for Equinix as a global energy efficiency program manager. He's based in Enschede, and his approach is keep it simple. Then we come to Jaime Comella. Jaime is the project manager at Cloud and Heat Technologies, an infrastructure solution provider based in Dresden. He will tell us now to build the most energy efficient infrastructure in the world. And last but not least, we have Dr. Bela Waldhauser. Bela is the CEO from Telehaus Deutschland and KDDI. He's based in Frankfurt. He is also the spokesperson of the Alliance for Strengthening Digital Infrastructures in Germany. So welcome to all our experts to the webinar. And yeah, please, Stein, as our host and co-moderator, please, would you like to introduce yourself before we come to the short presentations?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much, Roland. My name is Stijn Grove. I'm the director of the Dutch Data Center Association, and we're very happy to start this webinar series with ECO. There are many things alike all over Europe and on several topics. And we started now with sustainability and efficiency. That's one of the key issues that we also see where we as an industry need to move forward. And there are so many things that we can do, and there are so many things that are already happening. I think it's very interesting from this series to hear from the experts what is the actual status and what are they seeing for the next couple of years as the future of green data centers.
Yeah, thank you, Stein. So now we come to some short presentations from our experts about their running projects and how they are involved in the field of data center, waste heat, and sustainability. So first, we will start with Eric from the Dutch Data Center Association. Eric will give us a short summary about the waste heat timeline in the Netherlands.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Roland, and good afternoon. My name is Eric Barendsen. I work for the Dutch Data Center Association as a policy officer involved in everything related to sustainability and circularity in the data center industry in the Netherlands. So I work in the team of Stein. Yeah, it's not a real in-depth presentation about the different projects. I just want to describe the timelines which we have seen in the Netherlands, which actually caused the I would say the investment companies of real estate showing interest for using residual heat from data centers. So back in 2017, it was already Stein who introduced the concept of using residual data center heat for other purposes. At the moment, we have currently about 1.6 gigawatt of connected power in the Netherlands to data centers, and obviously with a significant utilization of that power, we produce a lot of waste heat, which currently goes up in the air, which is just a shame because it's a very valuable energy. However, in late 2018, data center residual heat was actually accepted as a sustainable heat source, which meant that from a calculation point of view for calculation the energy efficiency of buildings, residual heat, data center heat was actually calculated as a positive. And obviously only after that the bigger real estate development companies showed interest in our residual heat. That was obviously for the Netherlands a big turning point. This acceptance of our sustainable or our residual heat as a sustainable heat source was the momentum which we were waiting for to actually push through next level. In 2019, actually, we have four significant pilot projects running. Not real large apartment systems that we are heating, although I believe that that is our sweet spot. So apartments, stacked buildings, preferably with a high energy efficiency, where we can use the residual heat from data centers, which is obviously relatively low compared to the existing district heating system networks. In 2020, we had another, I would not say breakthrough, but another reason why the data center residual heat became on the radar. It were two of the larger cities in the Netherlands, which host about, I would say 75% of the data center floor space, actually published policies about the fact that new data centers need to make their waste heat available for other purposes, mostly district heating systems. And in 2020, we now have multiple projects at hand for larger scale deployments, which are currently still in preparation status, but far in the project phase. So this is just a quick overview of what's happening in the Netherlands, and obviously I'm willing to share any details, and obviously hoping to help ECO to make a similar roadmap available, or a similar path towards success available. So like I said, we have calculated that we can approximately heat up about 1 million households in the Netherlands, reducing about 600 kilotons of CO2. And yeah, like I said, the best fit for the time being seems to be using our waste heat for residual apartment blocks, which are near energy neutral because of we can use the relatively low temperature of the waste heat of data centers to, for instance, use floor heating, or use heat pumps to slightly increase the temperature to 40 to 50 degrees. Although that said, in the Netherlands, we are currently working on multiple projects who are actually boosting the heat from 30 to 70 using heat pumps, which obviously has an effect on the energy efficiency, but so far all numbers look, in our calculations, look very positive.
Okay.
So that is what I wanted to share as a starter.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. So before we come to our next expert, just an information to our audience. If you have any questions, please post it in the chat function, and then we can discuss after the presentations. So now we come to our next expert, Arjan Westerhoff. Arjan will tell us how Equinix, as a global interconnection and colocation provider, is dealing with energy efficiency activities in the Netherlands.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Arjan Westerhoff, and in my role as Global Energy Efficiency Program Manager, we make the Equinix data centers more efficient and sustainable around the world. Equinix is the largest data center and co-location provider with more than 210 data centers worldwide. We're active in 55 major metros around the world, and currently we are already using 92% of the renewable energy for the energy consumption. And of course, that's not where it will end up. We will go to the 100%. Earlier this year, Equinix launched a new Center of Excellence for Energy Efficiency. It's a global coordinated approach for energy efficiency in the existing data centers, where we implement best practices. It's a phased process, uniform approach, maximizing the impact of core sustainable technologies. If you, Roland, we can go to the second slide.
Yes.
So Equinix is already doing projects in waste heat, involved in several reuse waste heat initiatives. The new built data centers already have a preparation to reclaim the waste heat for their own building, but also for other buildings around. And part of the energy efficiency program, we create a plan for existing data centers to use the heat of the data center in the future. It's not easy to do, but we are already working on those programs. And one of the nice examples is the AM3 data center, where we exchanged already heat with the University of Amsterdam, making use of an ATES system, an aquifer thermal energy storage system. So that's my short introduction of Equinix and the energy efficiency in waste heat.
Okay, thank you, Arjan. Now I think we have to switch over to Jaime. Emma, can you?
It's okay. I think I can do with your slides. It's maybe easier.
No problem.
Faster. So hello everybody in the audience. Thank you very much, Roland, for the presentations. Glad to be here with you. Jaime Comella. I'm talking on behalf of Cloud and Heat Technologies. This is a German company, a small German company. Since 2012, we deliver digital infrastructures, digital solutions. And I'm talking about digital infrastructures as a general expression, because we deliver infrastructure, hardware, water-cooled, as well as cloud infrastructure, so virtual infrastructure. So we claim to build the most energy-efficient data centers worldwide, and this is because also we consider this problem or this business as with a holistic approach. We see every part as a part of the whole, and in the center is the data center. The data center is driving the future and is driving the future technologies. And well, also with our wise monitoring and operation, we are able to orchestrate the different tasks between different data centers to make it much more energy efficient. So the holistic approach takes care also of the waste heat recovery, which is one of the most attractive things. And this is why also I'm here talking. So if you can go to the next slide. Yes, if we focus on the physical infrastructures, yes, we save 26% of energy consumption in comparison with traditional air-cooled data centers by using a wise way of direct water cooling with hot water the data centers. This makes us to achieve a PUE value of 1.02, which is a really impressive value in the world. And this is not taking into account the waste heat recovery. On the other hand, so we are allowing the waste heat of the data centers to be recovered, and we consider it as an asset. It's particularly important to have high temperatures because it's easier to reutilize afterwards the waste heat. So let's say almost every kilowatt that goes inside of a data center can bring value in twice. First, by generating digital infrastructure, digital services. Second, by generating an energy that can be reused in form of heating, for drying, or even for cooling or desalinating purposes. So there are many ways of reusing the waste heat, as you might know. And I'm finishing with the last slide. yeah, with a use case of our own data center in Frankfurt, in Eurothium. This is where we have our cloud clients mostly, and from there we deliver our cloud services. And this is a 500 kilowatt tier 3 data center located in a building, in a skyscraper in Frankfurt, where also offices and a hotel are located inside and are taking profit from the waste heat of the data center. By using 500 kilowatt of the data center, we can save cooling cost of around 190,000 euros per year, and saving heating cost of around 65,000 euros per year, as well as a CO2 equivalent tons reduction emission of 710 per year. So this is it. I end with the hard facts, and I'm very glad to be here and discussing this panel with my colleagues.
Thank you very much, Jaime. So last but not least, we have Bela Waldhauser. Bela will tell us something about the Alliance for Strengthening Digital Infrastructure in Germany, and he will also tell us about waste heat use case in Frankfurt. So please, it's yours, Bela.
Thank you very much, Roland. And as you just mentioned, I have two roles, and I will start with the Alliance, which we founded at the beginning of 2018, because we would like to educate the decision makers in politics and industry in order to get more knowledge across about the importance of digital infrastructure, and obviously data centers are a very important part of that. So then our first demand is strengthening and developing Germany strategically as a data center location. You may ask why. Simply because a lot of people do not understand why we need data centers if we have smartphones. It's a funny statement, but it's like this. And digital infrastructure, including data centers, but not only, broadband is important, internet exchanges are important, is an important factor for any business location, not only Germany, but every developed business nation should have a very solid, capable digital infrastructure. I don't want to go through all 10 demands, but number 10, make electricity costs more competitive. And as you might know, electricity costs in Germany are very high, unfortunately. And in addition to that, Eric was, in his short introduction, talking about heat pumps. Unfortunately, in Germany, we are paying the high electricity costs, including a renewable energy contribution, which alone is more than 6.5 cents per kilowatt hour, also for the power we need for heat pumps, which makes it, from an economical point of view, absolutely impossible to make a business case out of using residual heat in a data center, from a data center for something else. And this is something we are fighting together with Roland and some others in order to improve that situation. That's about the Alliance. And now the next slide. I was lucky because my data center is at the right bottom part of that picture, on the right-hand side of the slide. And just on the other side of the street of Gleierstraße, there was a huge office building, or various office buildings, which have not been used for the past years. They have been demolished. They are fully demolished now, I can tell you. And Instone, who is a company who is developing things like that, want to build in the next 4 years, in 2 phases, between 1,200 and 1,300 apartments, flats for residents. And because we are just across the street, I've discussed with Instone and with the local power supplier, Mainova, that we will provide our residual heat from the data center for these flats, for these apartments, whenever they are ready to start. Eric, you were talking about bringing the heat up from 30 degrees up to 60, 70 degrees. And this is exactly the challenge. and therefore we do need Minova as well, because we cannot provide enough heat for 1,300 apartments all the time, 365 days a year, especially in winter time. So that's the reason why we do that together with a local supplier, Minova, the Instone, the developer of that piece of land, and Telehouse. From my knowledge, in Germany, this will be by far the largest project where residual heat from data centers are used for residents. That's it from me.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bela. And before we now start with our discussion, we want you, the audience, to be involved. We have prepared some interactive polls for you. So let's start with the first poll question to the audience. You will see now 4 choices, A, B, C, and D, and in your control panel. So please give us a feedback to the following first question. What role data center residual heat play in reducing the carbon footprint of district heating system? Do you think it's A, none, since there is no current need to reduce this footprint? Or do you think it's B, a minor role, in addition to the move to heat generated by natural gas systems? Or is it C, a significant role in order to avoid building natural gas and bio-based heat sources? Or do you think it's D, it is a must in order to reduce all fossil-based heat sources, including bio-based? So what do you think? Just click on your option that you like to tick, and then we will present in a few seconds the results of the poll. So just,
I guess we as panelists cannot vote.
Sorry?
We as panelists are not allowed to vote, I think.
Yeah, it's up to you. But so I think we have just a few minutes, and then we will close the poll, and then I tell you the results. So just okay. So I got the information. The poll is closed. So then we have the results. 0% say none, since there is no current need to reduce that footprint. That's no surprise for me. So then 23% think it plays a minor role in addition to the move to heat generated by natural gas systems. 15% think it plays a significant role, and 62% say it's a must in order to reduce all fossil-based heat sources. So, question to our experts. What do you think? Do you have expected these results? Are you surprised that almost 2/3 of our audience say it's a must in order to reduce all fossil-based heat sources?
Yeah, it's interesting, given the fact that I do not fully understand the German district heating system market, basically. I find it surprising to see a very high response on a must, which is great, but immediately also addresses the challenge that Bela just mentioned, that the energy prices are up in the sky obviously in Germany. So that leaves an interesting discussion. While we think, or the audience thinks, that we need to move to electricity generated heating from a data center, obviously, while the electricity prices are very high. So that's going to be an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
May I step in, Eric? I would look at not only 60.
No. So we have some problems with the internet connection. Bela, can you hear me?
Going on some personal connection, to be honest.
Okay. So I start. So I would combine the 62 and the 15. So we have 3/4 of the people voted who say it plays a significant role or it's a must. And I think that's absolutely the right answer. I fully agree to that, because we in the data center business, we are generating a lot of heat. And this will continue for the next years. In every country, more and more data centers will be built. So you can expect more residual heat to be produced. And therefore, I think we should think about how to best use this residual heat.
Yeah, fully agree.
If I might answer to that, I'm not surprised at all, actually. If our audience comes mostly from Europe, and now we are in the middle of a green deal and digital deal, and together, actually, they combine very well for understanding those answers, actually. And it's not about electrical heating. Well, in fact, it's electrical heating, but at the end, is a byproduct that otherwise would be garbage, otherwise would be lost. And this is, for me, and I guess for everybody here, 100% sustainable, 100% renewable energy. Do you agree on that statement?
Yeah, I agree. I see that Bela just dropped off, but yeah, obviously it depends on the heat, on how the system is cooled. Obviously, with cloud and heat, you're already using liquid cooling systems. But the majority of data centers are currently using, I would say, airflow systems, where obviously the output temperature is lower, and therefore we will need heat pumps in case we want to have an universal system, which can be used for existing building as well as new buildings. So yeah, and at the end, it all comes down to the business case. Basically, I mean, the business case, you need to have sufficient supply, and you have to have sufficient demand, and in between, a district heating network operator needs to make its business case and make things work. And that is currently where we see in the Netherlands, where the biggest challenge is. I mean, people all believe that we need to remove or reduce the fossil-based heat sources. Everybody also strongly feels that it's a real waste to distribute or dissipate the hot air into thin air, basically. But the biggest challenge we see in the Netherlands is obviously making the business case work and make it an economical model, because like I said, the piping is expensive, and in Germany an additional complexity could be that the energy prices are fairly high for the heat pump systems. So yeah, I wonder if there's perhaps that's a good question for Bela, whether people are already calculating on the business case in Frankfurt, in the Kleierstrasse area, or it's just.
The big advantage we have is that both pieces of land were connected to each other anyway in the past, because both did belong to the same company years ago. And we have pipes already going across the street, because one side provided the heat to the other side. So we are not inventing the wheel, we just do what has been done for many years. but this is a very unique situation I have there. And it took me a while to persuade Instone and Minova that this is something we need to do, because Instone want an easy solution, Minova want to sell the heat, you know. So at the end of the day, what we need is a thinking, a behavior that the heat which is produced free of charge, which is blown into the air, that this can be used easily, and it should be mandatory, because I don't know how the situation is in other countries, but in Germany there is no obligation at all that Instone or whoever need to take the heat, or Minova need to take my heat. There's no obligation at all, and this is something I think we should change, that whatever is produced anyway, like the heat in a data center, should be used, if possible, at all.
So Bela, is it the first project of its kind in Germany, or?
No, there is, for example, another project in Braunschweig, a city some 100 kilometers north of Frankfurt, where Volkswagen Financial Services, they have a small data center. And if I remember correctly, they are providing heat to 40, 50 households, which is good. But that's only a very small implementation. And then obviously Jaime was talking about the Eurotheum, but I'm not aware of any project which is near the size of the 1,200–1,300 flats I'm talking about.
No, you're right. We have in Dresden data centers in the basement of big apartment buildings, and we provide heat for 70 households. Still small, it's not 1,200. This is another level.
Can I ask you on that part, because in the Netherlands it's a real challenge, and it's a real issue for property developers to go and have a contract with a heat supplier if he only has one heat source, and if he doesn't have an operational history of more than 50 years. That's a challenge. They need to give trust to the apartment users that they are providing heat from a source which is reliable. How did you overcome that problem with the heat you're providing in apartment blocks?
So in that case, we have a contract with the energy provider, local energy provider, which has already a district heating connection available at the site. So there's always an ensured energy supply, and we are only bringing the surplus, let's say, as a surplus, our waste heat.
Yeah. So it only worked for you if there was already another heat or an energy source on site.
Yes, or we have to partner with somebody that provides it from a different source.
Okay.
That's very recognizable.
We're talking about the energy transition, and we're talking about our business cases and the price for kilowatt hours. The price for a kilowatt hour in Germany is high, but we shouldn't think on the short term, but more on the long term. And so the question will be, what can we expect, what can we change on the long term on the kilowatt hour price? Looking to the energy transition, we need a lot of new and different type of energy. There's no single solution for this problem. So we need to use the data center waste heat next to a lot of other different kind of energy sources. That's one thing for sure. The question is how do we get there? And don't look on the short term. Yes, now it's probably expensive, but what can we change to make it better in the future?
I fully agree with you, Arjan. But if there's no economical feasible solution, no business case, then the answer is very quickly no, because the developer of just of 1,200, 1,300 flats is not going to pay money in addition or more money than necessary to get heat. So they are obliged to provide that heat to the people, the residents in these apartments as cost effective as possible. So that's the reason why we try to get rid of at least the renewable energy contribution. And just to give you an example, at the moment we are at 6.7 cents per kilowatt hour only renewable energy contribution out of roughly 15-cent total cost per kilowatt hour. So that's a huge amount of money, around about 40% of the total cost. And if we can get rid of that, that would help a lot to make it feasible. But in addition to that, the heat, a centralized heat production and distribution is not state of the art, is not common in Germany. So I think we should change anyway the way how to create heat and distribute that, because I'm at home now. I have my own heating system, my neighbor as well, the neighbor of my neighbor as well. So that's how it works usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, but next, that's the energy transition, and we need to do this together, and we need to come up with new things, small things together. We need to work together. That's the only way we can come up with this. And what you just said about the 40%, when you can change that, when you can bring that down, it will become more positive for the business case, of course. And then more parties will be becoming interested, and 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 and more projects will follow up. There has to be a good example for this.
Arjan, you are involved in many countries, or you are talking to, or in your team is a very is a representation of lots of countries that work with sustainability for Equinix. How do you see the differences in all these different countries in terms of residual heat?
That's a difficult one because currently most of the countries are focusing on availability due to COVID-19, and next to that energy efficiency, and the waste heat is the next step. Some countries are talking about it and doing projects, some not. That also has to do with the regional opportunities. So there's not a clear answer on that, to be honest. It's depending on where that data center is based.
Is Europe in front of these discussions, or are we really looking more at energy efficiency and residual heat than other countries?
Sorry, what did you say in the first sentence?
Well, are we in Europe ahead of the game in terms of efficient data centers and residual heat?
Yeah, I think looking to Europe, we're doing quite well compared to the other countries in the world. Absolutely. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
But we're not there yet.
But Arjan, Stein, you have asked 2 questions, Stein. The one was energy efficient data centers, and the other one was residual heat. So from a energy efficient data center point of view, I mean, Equinix is running 210 data centers across the globe, and I think you have a standardized design. So I would assume that not looking at the outside temperatures, which obviously has have an impact, all the Equinix data centers, at least the new ones, should be as efficient as others.
No, there's no data center the same like the other one. And also those more than 200 data centers from Equinix, there are differences. So it's not easy to say if one is energy efficient, the other one is also energy efficient. It also has to do with the customers, but also with the outside climate. So it's not that easy.
Okay, but I think the tradition of using residual heat is very different country by country. And I think if my friend Staffan Revemann would be there, he would talk about Sweden, where it seems to be standard, and in Germany I can tell you it's not. And that's exactly the point. And you said that we have to do that together, but we need to change the mindset.
I agree, absolutely. That's it. We need to change the mindset for this, but we need to do this together. You can't do it on your own as a data center. You need the end user, but most important maybe, how do we get the waste heat from the data center to the end user? Who's going to bring in the pipes, doing the maintenance? Who's taking the risk in those kind of things? If I look to the Netherlands, what I hear, and Stijn and Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that is the part which is really difficult for now.
Yeah, if I can comment, that is indeed, like I said, is the most challenging part. Certainly in the Netherlands, which might be very interesting for you as well as for the German market as a whole. In the Netherlands, we have this new energy efficiency kind of number, and all new building apartment blocks need to be, or all new buildings actually need to be compliant with this energy efficiency, or this energy neutral thing almost, which means for a real estate developer, he needs to build his apartment blocks kind of almost energy neutral, which might be that he needs to have PV, solar power, he needs to have whatever technology is available to actually create an energy neutral system. The fact, like I said in my beginning, that data center residual heat is in the Netherlands being how do you say, certified as sustainable energy source helps the real estate developers enormously to achieve this energy efficiency. So in the Netherlands, you see that the government actually is helping with these kind of rules and regulations, is helping to create a market for sustainable energy sources, among them data centers, but also obviously geothermal and surface water systems and all those kind of things, which in the Netherlands is helping a lot from two sides, right? So first, certifying certain heat sources as sustainable, and on the other hand, creating an energy efficiency norm, or where new buildings need to comply with. And if you have those two, then obviously the business case for transporting the waste heat energy from whatever sustainable source to the end user is still challenging, but there is some pressure by municipalities and local government, but also national government, to make it happen. As a result, we also have subsidies to make things happen. And I'm unfamiliar with the German market, whether this is a similar situation, although I believe that in Germany, we are actually only starting to move away from oil and coal-based systems to natural gas systems for heating systems, if I'm correct. While in the Netherlands, we're already trying to get away from natural gas.
Eric, if I might follow your point, which wasn't very interesting, you said, so the real estate, so the people that build buildings must build carbon neutral or energy efficient. They have to, right?
Right.
So maybe if it sounds a bit controversial, why not oblige data center builders or data center companies, sorry if it's controversial for some of you, to take care of this CO2 that they generate? So some other industries are obliged and have to take care of it, and they even do some it comes in a market, in the CO2 market, and they sell their emissions or their rights to emission, why not do the same for the digital industry? I mean, this is something, maybe it will come. I'm not just saying that it would be nice that it will be like this. Maybe it will be like this very soon, and maybe we have to be prepared for that, because it's kind of a moral thing, and at the end there are externalized costs that are going to the atmosphere or to every one of us, and this is something it has to be done in the future.
Yeah, I fully agree, and perhaps Stijn wants to comment on that as well. But in the Netherlands, we see that already. Our latest poll, it was almost 90% of all the data centers are running on sustainable energy. So in the Netherlands, the industry itself already took that step to be, in order to avoid being pushed that way. So in the Netherlands, you see that most data centers, actually, which are members of the DDA, already do have green contracts in any way or form. It could be, there are obviously different shades of green, but most of them do have a green contract, whether it's either European green energy or locally sourced.
Yeah, it's sometimes also very difficult, because I think this is one of the industry that uses, I think, the most, in percentage-wise, the most green energy of any sector. And since we are doing that, we're now sort of like being seen as the ones who take all the green energy, which is a little bit strange, because actually we're doing the good thing, and now we're being attacked by doing the good thing. So it's very difficult to keep the discussion in a right way or at effect. We're all working from home. We're all using digital services day to day, and I think it's very positive then that we are using green energy for that use. In terms of adding to that, most new data centers already have a connection to feed the heat into a network, if that exists. So all new data centers are basically prepared already for giving away the heat. But that's, I think, the real challenge. What we have said in the Netherlands, what we have offered in 2017 is that you can have the heat, but we will come and get it, basically, to say it in a popular way. So we are ready to provide you the heat, but yeah, the heat network itself is not our core business, and that should be done by the heat network operator. That's still a big challenge, although there are already some projects that is really still one of the biggest challenges that we're up to.
So sorry for interrupting you, but I think this is exactly the right time for our next poll question for the audience. Yeah, so we talked about two projects. Bela talked about his project with residential areas, and Jaime with office buildings. So the next question is, in which areas do you see the greatest opportunities for waste heat utilization? So is it A, residential areas, or is it B, office buildings, or is it C, agriculture or vertical farming? Or do you think it's yet another topic, or I don't know? So just give us a feedback, and in a few seconds we will present you the results of the poll. So I see the audience voting, so I think just a few seconds, and then the poll is closed. So I have the results. So question was, in which area do you see the greatest opportunities for waste heat utilization? 10% of our audience say residential areas. 30% say office buildings. 40% say it's agriculture and 20% others, or I don't know. So, question to our experts, what do you have expect? Are you surprised about these results, or do you say, yeah, I fully agree with the results?
Yeah, I don't see I still see the quick poll on the screen. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I'm surprised. Although on the other hand, I'm not surprised, because this is actually in 2017 and 18 what we believe was the biggest opportunity as well. We have a lot of greenhouses in the Netherlands, so we all thought, well, this could be this must be an easy case, right? These guys need heat, need actually relatively low temperature heat. I mean, you don't need to, if you have sufficient energy or waste heat of 30 degrees, that's fine for the cucumbers and the small tomatoes and paprikas, and or how do you call these things? Anyway, but at the end, it turned out that the business case is actually opposite of the poll, because residential users are used to pay most for their energy, and that's what we did. What we discovered in the Netherlands, actually, greenhouses turn out to be a very bad use case in the Netherlands, again, because in the Netherlands, greenhouses use a lot of natural gas, which they basically get for, well, not for free, but not at a price that we as a consumer pay. Office buildings obviously also have larger contracts, which has a price decrease on the energy bills, and the residential users are actually the ones who are used to paying the most for their energy consumption. So in the Netherlands, we see it actually completely the other way, or over the 3 years that we have been involved, we see it turning from indeed what we first believed as the best business case, agriculture and greenhouses, towards residential users. So not surprised to see this, but it kind of indicates that we still have a lot of things to do in Germany to understand the business case. That's my view. So I will leave it now up to you, because this was obviously a very strong statement.
Yes, indeed, Eric. And you know, if we are talking about the existing data centers anywhere, you have no choice whether you use it for residential, office, agricultural, or something else. You have neighbors. And if we are talking about 30 degrees Celsius, then the more far you want to bring that heat to some users, the more cost you need to invest in bringing up the temperatures to the right level. So I would like to use the heat from any data center to the neighbors, because then you have to use less heat pumps in order to bring it up. So that would be my personal answer.
And if I can step into it, we haven't talked about the edge computing. This is supposed to be a trend. Actually, is the trend we are waiting for since a couple of years. But means there would be a small data center close, so at the edge, so at the end of the street, so very close to residential areas and offices. So would have to be compact. Has to be compact because it's in the middle of the city, and well, we could use that waste heat for residential and for offices. So yeah, I agree with you, Eric, that I wasn't expecting that at all, but I guess it's for the Netherlands a very interesting case. Greenhouses, low temperature levels, but in summer you don't need any heat for greenhouses. But the residential areas, you need heat the whole year. This base load you use for showering and so on. And this is, for example, how we dimension our data centers if we couple them to a residential area. So the maximum power of the data center cannot surpass, or not very much, this base load of the residential place where we are feeding waste heat into.
Yeah. No, I agree. Sorry.
sorry. So I ask about the three main topics: residential areas, office buildings, and agriculture or vertical farming. So have I forgotten something? Do you have something extra in mind? Some other business cases?
Yeah.
Roland, it could be any neighbor. It could be a supermarket. It could be a big swimming pool, local swimming pool from that part of the city. It could be a kindergarten, a school, whatsoever. I think taking into account at present the temperature we are producing in a standard data center with airflow cooling is max 30 degrees. So we should try to use the heat, the residual heat nearby. That's the most cost-effective solution. If we are coming to another type of cooling, then the answer might be different.
Okay.
I guess that since a data center is running a whole year and providing heat a whole year, it needs to be a combination of different things, because there is no particular industry or residential who's using heat all the time. So you need the variety of different uses to exchange the heat, I would say.
Okay. I think there was a question from Jaime.
Well, or dimensioning it in a wise way. So connecting it to the, I would say the proportion of the loads should be well balanced. So if you are producing the whole year 100 kilowatt and the residential areas around are needing 1,000 kilowatts around, so in winter, but 100 in summer, then you got it. I mean, and well, one point very interesting you said is a mix of energy demand, right? This is of course very interesting, and this is, I think, the way this waste heat recovery can survive in the future. Otherwise, it will be very limited to only one sector. And you asked before, Roland, if you had ideas about something else: drying food, drying wood, industrial heating, cooling power, sorry, by using a thermodynamical process where you use absorption heating, absorption cooling, desalinating. So it's not only agriculture, residential, and offices. There's many more.
Yeah. Should Simon or anybody else should there be more research in this topic? Because I think there's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of sort of like initial ideas, but the real sort of like rolling this out in a larger scale is still in sort of like the pioneering phase. Should we have more emphasis on research in this area to actually use this type of energy in all sorts of forms?
Definitely. You said before that well, even if we agree kind of that the CO2 emissions or the waste heat produced by the data centers is kind of an obligation for data centers providers, data centers builders to at least to facilitate the way to get it reused, but it's not 100% the obligation of the data center builders to make the whole network for reusing that energy. But yes, I think as a lobby, the data center industry or digital industry should push in that way, because it's very interesting for them, and in the future they will pay less CO2 emissions. I mean, in the future they will get some profit from that. They will be able also to sell this energy themselves, and this is very profitable.
Possibly.
But just to step in quickly, we are talking now about neighbors and who can use our residual heat. The question is whether it's a long distance heating or a nearby heating system. That's for me the main question. Because if we have local energy suppliers who are responsible for power, gas, heat, whatever is needed, then it doesn't matter whether we are talking about households, whether we are talking about offices, agricultural, swimming pools, supermarkets, whatsoever. then I do have a heat system in that city, and it does not matter where the data center supplies the residual heat into that system, because it's simply part of the system. And I think that should be, at the end of the day, the solution. And in addition to that, we do need these long-distance heating systems based on the forced generation, because if we are talking about first, second generation, we are talking about temperatures of 100 degrees Celsius, maybe more, and the forced generation is ready to deal with 50, 60, 70 degrees Celsius.
So I think this is exactly the right point to come to our third poll for the audience, because we can talk about the technical issues, we can talk about the concerns. So the third poll question would be, what do you think are the biggest concerns for reusing data center waste heat? So is it A, temperature level too low for utilization? Is it B, no consumers available for the waste heat? Or is it C, no cost-effective utilization possible? Or do you think there are other reasons or other concerns? So just give us your vote. Time is running, so we have 1 minute for every poll, and so we have 15 seconds left, and then I can tell you the results of the poll. Just the last 5 seconds now. Oh, it's quite interesting. Okay, so the poll is closed. The results are, we have 13% temperature level too low for utilization. 25% think no consumers available for the waste heat. 63%, that's the majority, think no cost-effective utilization possible, and 0% think other concerns. So, question to our experts, have you this expected? Are you surprised about the results? Everything agree?
Well. I'm negatively surprised that
Okay.
that think that there is a significant challenge in the business case, which we have discussed. Hopefully, this is not a reflection of our own discussion, but it seems like we have a challenge to make this a cost-effective solution. Obviously, we cannot interact with the audience, or at least only through polls. But I would be very interested to understand where we see the biggest challenges are in relation to this business case. Is it the infrastructure that it needs to be built, or is it the electricity that we need for the heat pumps, or there are obviously many stakeholders in such a business case, and many
Eric, you don't believe me. No, I mean, essentially, if you are paying and the 15-16 cents per kilowatt hour is the base price in Germany, you know, and this is the price you get as a data center by purchasing hundreds of gigawatt hours every year. Actually, the end user would pay something like 30 kilowatt and more, 30 euro cents per kilowatt hour and more. So the cost for the power is an essential problem. But besides that, I think another problem is that there's no obligation to use it. We've discussed that. And there's, at least in Germany, no tradition to use the heat. Because this is what Stefan tells me every time I meet him about Sweden. If there's a tradition, then nobody thinks about it. You just do it and try to do it in an effective way. If you have no tradition, because everybody has their own oil or gas heating system inside.
But there is no national plan to remove or to I mean, we all have to comply to the climate agreement, right? And the so at the end, all these personal systems either need to be replaced by an all-electric system, but obviously the current prices of electricity in Germany will be quite expensive. So everybody needs to install his own heat pump and an air-to-liquid heat pump. Or we are all going to wait for hydrogen, or we actually, or there's actually an interest in kind of this district heating systems. I mean, doing nothing is, I don't know, in the Netherlands is definitely not an option. You know, we have.
I'm not sure, but I think, Eric, the population per square kilometer is much higher than in Germany.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. So that means every district heating system is able to supply heat to more households than in Germany typically. Germany is very fragmented, as you know, so we have only 4 cities with 1 million or more citizens, and a lot of people living outside of the big cities. So there is a challenge, and there's no tradition.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay, I agree, and obviously data centers are very much concentrated in the Frankfurt area.
But this is an opportunity, at least in Germany, because most of the co-location data centers are focused in the Frankfurt Rhine-Main region. So if you build there a proper heat system, but I can tell you that Minova, our local energy supplier, is investing now 750 million euros in order to provide enough power. So I'm not sure whether they have additional money to invest in a proper heating system.
Yeah. Okay. So I understand the challenge. I mean, in that case, obviously Germany is very different from the Netherlands, because indeed we are with 17 million people on a very small footprint, and obviously we have this additional thing that we actually have a national plan that everybody needs to get rid of his own gas-based heating system, because you know we have this problem in Groningen, where actually we have small earthquakes due to the gas winning. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I don't have an answer.
Other feedbacks from?
Yeah.
If somebody else wants to say something?
Yeah, I have an open question for everybody. Then who pays for this network? Who invests in this change of technology, so to be able to use that, right? And at the end, who makes profit from the data centers the most? And maybe it's these cloud providers, because if you think about more or less in an investment of a data center, 2/3 are the servers, are the IT components. And in 5 years, their value is almost zero. So in a 10 years life, only 20% is infrastructure of the cost of a data center. The rest is hardware. And who are using the hardware for what, and what they are producing for money. So the thing is how we generate the money to make a more sustainable activity in that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, Jaime, you've pointed out the right thing. Because what I wanted to say is, and this is exactly the problem, as you know, I'm a physicist, and air is not the right medium to cool, to transport heat. So I would rather prefer liquid, maybe water, whatever, in order to cool the systems. I would love to have liquid cooled servers where you take the heat directly from the place where it's produced, from the CPU. However, that would change the complete infrastructure of the data center, not only for us as providers, but also for our customers, because then they need the respective servers, routers, switches, whatsoever. However, I think this is our future in the next 5 or 10 years, because first of all, we are using the right medium to transport heat. Second, we take the heat from where it's produced directly and not through something. And third, the heat we will get has 60, 70 degrees Celsius. So we can use that directly and put that into a long distance heating system without heat pumps, anything. So that would be the perfect solution, but that would be a change to the classical data center standard.
Yeah. And any other feedback from you?
No, yeah, I agree. Obviously, liquid is more suited to transport heat. Although also looking at Arjen, obviously, changing the complete build of a data center, that is a significant task. And obviously, we also, as a data center industry, we need our clients to adapt to that as well. I think that is a very difficult one, because for hyperscalers like Google, Facebook, and Microsoft, you name them, these guys built their own systems, so they could adapt. Multi-tenant data centers like Equinix and like NTT and others.
Don't forget telehouse, please.
Obviously, sorry.
Thank you.
They obviously need to adapt to their customers, and if the large IT customers do not adapt to this technology or do not trust this technology or whatever reason they have, yeah, we are a bit in a catch-22 situation.
I cannot agree more, Eric. However, if you look at the power consumption of a data center with a PUE of 1.3, 75% of the power is used by the customer, 25% by the operator. Mm-hmm. How much of that is the residual heat if you talk in CO2 footprint or whatever, how you name it? So I think, and Arjen said that earlier, it only works if we're working closely together. So we need to look at the full picture. The customer IT consumption, the efficiency of us as an operator, the residual heat, etc. And if we are talking about legislation, regulation, whatsoever about residual heat, we can also talk about regulation about the CO2 footprint of a data center. And by the way, this is part of the digital agenda, which is discussed now inside the EU Commission. And not forget CISPA and European Data Center Association, who want to commit to neutral data center in 10 years, 2030. So I think we need to involve all that into that discussion.
Okay, I have just one last poll question. Maybe we can open that last poll question for the audience. So the question is, should data centers make a joint public statement about reusing waste heat? So one answer A could be yes, this will help to accelerate the use and the perception of the industry? Or do you think it's B, yes, and they should also invest in heat networks themselves? Or is it C, no, let the market solve it on its own? Or do you think you have other reasons or whatever? So the poll is running, so we have 10 minutes left. And just an information to our audience, if you have any question, please put it in the chat, and then we can discuss for the last 15 minutes about that question. So the poll is closed. I have the results. Should data center make a joint public statement about reusing waste heat? So 29% say yes, this will help to accelerate the use and the perception of the industry. 43% say yes, and they should also invest in heat networks themselves. Only 14% say no, let the market solve it by its own, and other 14% say other reasons, or I don't know. So, question again to our experts: have you expected these results? Are you surprised? So we have over 70% in some that say yes.
I'm very much surprised about the vote for investing in networks, because this cannot be part of the data center business. I mean, a simple car is producing a lot of heat. So shall the car owner or the car producer invest in networks to give away the heat to whomever? I don't understand that. Publication, fine. Joint publication, fine. Because this is something I'm fighting for the last years, that we as a data center industry fully agree and accept our responsibility for sustainability, and residual heat usage is part of that. But we are data center operators, not heat network suppliers.
Next to that, the data center industry is already really busy building new data centers. There's a huge demand for more digitalization. There is simply no time and energy available to get this done. But this is what you just said, Bella. Investing in heat networks. That's really something else than designing, building, and operating a data center.
Well, it could be maybe in an indirect way, because if you think about car producers, they pollute and they pay fees for that. How big are the fees for the digital infrastructures? It's something that came in the last years, and it get developed and is growing and is getting a monster, I would say, positively. But maybe not to get them these networks work, but to invest indirectly on that. So through some fees. And I'm not saying only the data center operators, but again, the guys who are getting more profit from the digital infrastructure. So the whole industry.
But I think, and what you see in the Netherlands, the problem is not money. People will invest in heat networks because it's an ideal investment area. It's long-term, it's a solid return on investment. So many pension funds really want to invest in these kind of infrastructures. The problem is that legislation and the actual users are not there yet. So if there's no users there, there will be no investment. So I don't think that money is a problem or that data centers should invest in networks. The real problem is that with legislation and with the business case, there is still problems. And so things will not move forward. If that is solved, then pension funds will invest in these networks. So there's no problem with the money.
I fully agree, Stein. And coming back to what you've said, Jaime, you've mentioned earlier in our webinar that most of the investment goes into the IT hardware. So why are we talking about us as data center operators why don't we ask the hardware providers to pay for that? Because the hardware is using the power and creating the heat, not us.
It's very interesting what you say, of course.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
So,
it's a nice discussion point, of course. If you want to continue.
I'm coming back to what Ayan earlier said. It only works if we work on that jointly, and it's not only residual heat. It's the whole industry from A to Z.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah, and as just mentioned, we will get more and more data centers. There will be more and more digitalization. We are just at the beginning of that, talking about smart homes, smart cities, smart factory, artificial intelligence, 5G, cloud, Internet of Things, you name it, connected cars, autonomous driving. So a lot of stuff which is coming in, which will need more and more and more data centers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from the audience? No? Just post it in the chat window. So otherwise we have just 9 minutes left. Maybe we can think about some final statements about the topic. So maybe Stein, as a co-organizer of this webinar, maybe you can tell us something about your thoughts, and maybe just mention that we can go on with other topics. So I just at the beginnings I have said this is a webinar series. We are starting with a series. So what's coming up, Stein?
Well, there are many, I think, very interesting topics, and this topic is sort of like a portion of it. What we have seen in this webinar is that there's challenges, and there's sort of like a lot of discussion, but there is also a lot of things that we have to do to move forward. And we as an industry are in an industry of constant change. This industry grew within 20 years to one of the biggest industries. In the Netherlands is at this moment the largest sector in terms of foreign direct investment by far. And for a sector that didn't exist 20 years ago, that's quite a thing. And that has also a challenge, because for instance, our organization has to represent a sector is only 6 years old. ECHO is a little bit older, and the Alliance is also not that old. But we have to explain, we have to bring the knowledge to the general public about things that we have to do, and to make progress. If you look at in the Netherlands what we see in terms of legislation, in terms of also the political knowledge about the IT industry, and it's not only data centers, it's also about privacy, it's also about the European sovereignty, about our own cloud systems. There are so many topics that are at this moment very relevant and need to move further. We need to work together, and we need to organize ourselves better, I think, towards all these changes, because this will happen, and we need to manage it. And so if I look at the future of this webinar and focusing on data centers, yeah, there are so many other topics that we can talk about. For instance, one of the key issues in the Netherlands is education and employment. We need so many people. There's a shortage of so much personnel. How do we get these people for the digital transformation, for the energy transition, for data centers? That is a real challenge, and I think that's one of the next webinars we will talk about that.
Okay, thanks. So who wants to be the next with his statement?
I'm happy to be next, Roland. So it's a little bit what you've said, but let me go back several decades. I remember that when I was a young boy, we haven't had a dishwasher. Yes, we have had a washing machine. Yes, we have had a fridge, and so on and so on. Nowadays, the fridges are becoming bigger and bigger and more energy efficient. Same for dishwasher, washing machine, you name it. When I was young, not every family has had a car. Now the cars are becoming bigger and bigger and more efficient. But we are talking about several decades. And the difference between what I've described just and the digitalization is that we are used to use more services on a private basis, on a business basis, digital services. But the speed is so high that the energy consumption is becoming so quickly a high level that this is the main issue, because with everything I've described before, we're using a lot of energy. It's by far not climate neutral, but we don't talk about that because we are used to it for many decades. Digitalization is something different because, from my point of view, it started 13 years ago with the first smartphone. So, and that's the main difference, because it's so damned fast and we need to react so fast. And whenever we are talking about the energy usage, sustainability, etc., please be aware that, and Stein mentioned that, we are a very, very young industry. The data centers nowadays are much more efficient than 20 years ago, by far.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Bela. So who will be the next?
I can make a short final remark. Just as an advice, what obviously helped in the Netherlands was bringing all the stakeholders together. Just start talking. I think in this whole energy transition and using the residual heat and finding other heat sources to basically keep our lives comfortable. I think it is, like Arjen said, it's a mutual effort. What we did in the Netherlands is obviously bringing municipalities, data centers, real estate developers, advisors, and local government together, sit around the table and just discuss the options. And from that, many good ideas arose, and obviously some projects actually matured into real letter of intent and the actual calculations to make it work. These kind of letter of intent and these will also push the national government to have a closer look at it, because I agree with Stein, we are a very young company, and also with you, Bea. On a political level, there's a lack of knowledge. Let's put it politely. And people are still looking at I would say the traditional industries, which also have the strongest lobby. So by start doing this in the field, making these small bubbles where people actually see the benefit of these systems, and show that to national government and make them act. So this is actually what is happening in the Netherlands, and I truly hope we can make that work for different countries in Europe as well. Obviously, the Nordics are ahead of us. They already, in Sweden and Denmark, they already made these statements. We can also learn from that. I hope we can also learn from the efforts in the Netherlands, and hopefully it will be a kind of a spread out in Europe.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Eric. So Jaime and Arjan, what are your final statements? So who wants to start?
Yeah, just what I mentioned already. We need to do it together. But next to that, keep it simple. Otherwise, I'm a little bit afraid when too many people, too many organizations have a lot of different ideas. Maybe it's easier and better to start small and add more to that. When you want to start too big, it's probably not going to work.
Okay, well, thank you. Just a strong statement. Keep it simple. So, Jaime, you are
I will
the
make
last.
it more complicated, I think. I'm sorry.
Keep it complicated.
Well, we are now in a, I would say, in a road in Europe where digitalization and green economy are two important pillars of the future, and to marry them together in our sector, we face two big challenges, as we have seen. One of them are the regulations. Also, I would say the obligations for the sector, not only the the data center providers, but everybody in the sector, that we have to maybe self-impose ourselves. And the second challenge is to explain, to convince ourselves, first of all, that this is profitable and makes sense to save money in a global way, in a holistic way, and to save in CO2 emissions. We have to talk more about PUE, but maybe more about energy usage effectiveness, and really convince everybody and the society that this is the right way to do things.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, thank you very much. So I enjoyed the discussion very, very much, gentlemen. And thank you for that, for your time. And Stein and we will think about some other topics in the near future, and we will pronounce it on our websites. And so thank you for the last people who stayed in the webinar until the last minutes. And yeah, that's all. Have a good time, have a good afternoon, and see you next. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.